And welcome back to Music Free Static. I hope you're having a fabulous day. And today, here, episode 18, we are talking about Ahsoka Part 6, an episode entitled Far, Far Away. And this was a fun episode. A little slower than some of the last couple of ones have been. I think this one is one of those episodes where all the pieces are sort of moving into place, which is good. We're now ending up in the galaxy far, far away. So, yeah, it's gonna be exciting. In fact, the line gets dropped. Ahsoka and Huyang start the episode talking about Ahsoka's fears a little bit about Sabine, who chose to go with our villains. And Huyang has some interesting wisdom here, and Ahsoka's worried. Oh, she willingly threw away the fate of our galaxy to save Ezra. Right, she's concerned that, hey, maybe this was a problem, and that Sabine hadn't been prepared to be able to make a choice like that. And Huyang says, maybe for her, that was the only choice she had. That's something I think Ahsoka has sort of overlooked. And that may be in part because Ahsoka's been alone for a very long time. Right? She left the Jedi Order before the end of the Clone Wars. Order 66 happens, she was on the run. And even after that, even when she touches base in Rebels and some other places, she's basically worked alone. And now she's got Huyang with her, but she's still basically working alone and following that Jedi precept of don't make attachments. And so I think Ahsoka is lacking in a little bit of that understanding of what it means to have family. And that's what Sabine tapped into when she decided to, no, she is going to go find Ezra. But it's fun. She decides to do a quick subject change and asks Huyang to retell one of the stories, one of the lessons that he taught. It's like early galactic history when he was at the temple, the Jedi temple. And he starts it a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. It's like, yep. You said the thing, Star Wars. Good for you. So that was fun. But there's lots of interesting little reveals and tidbits here as we actually enter the new galaxy with, what's it, Peridia, I think is the name of the planet. And you get Elsbeth, Skoll and Hoti. They land on this this big tower, which is, Star Wars loves their towers. Right? There's towers for everything in Star Wars. This one also happens to be a temple for Night Sisters. Now, for those of you who've never really heard of Night Sisters before, you really see them in the Clone Wars. After the Clone Wars, the rise of the Empire, the Night Sisters were wiped out by the Empire. But the Night Sisters are a group of sort of force and magic using women, really, that are from the planet Dathomir. The other group of Dathomiri you may be aware of are those like Darth Maul, right? Maul was from Dathomir. The Dathomiri society is split with genders living separately. So you have the Night Sisters doing their thing, and you have the Night Brothers doing their thing. And apparently, Peridia is where they came from. And it's one of the comments, it's like, yes, the Night Sisters were among the first to ride the space whales. They're the first ones to hop in a Purrgil's mouth and warp out to different galaxies. Okay, well, that's fun. That's fun. And I think we're going to see something here because so the Empire wiped out the Night Sisters. But what we see here later in the show, and of course, full spoilers here. I'm not hiding anything in my thoughts as we go through this. But you see these caskets being loaded onto Elsbeth's shuttle or actually not a shuttle, onto the Star Destroyer to be taken back to the main Star Wars galaxy. Okay. They look like caskets. And my guess is these are caskets full of Night Sisters in suspended animation in some way or other. And that when they get to our galaxy, the main Star Wars galaxy, the Night Sisters will be released, and possibly some of the Night Brothers, and they'll repopulate Dathomir. Amongst other things, perhaps. I don't know. But that's kind of fun. Another interesting tidbit, Dave Filoni is really pulling from mythology for everybody in this series. The three Night Sisters we run into basically have the names of the three fates from Greek mythology. And they talk a lot about the threads. The threads of life and the threads of destiny and all this fun stuff. So that was sort of amusing. There's also, one of the cool things about when you run into the Night Sisters in the Clone Wars is you meet Mother Talzin. And she's sort of the head of the Night Sisters on Dathomir. But when she speaks, she gets this weird double voice thing going on. And we get that same thing with the head mother, I think they call her, of the Night Sisters here. So they are really pulling all of the animation stuff into Star Wars. And since I believe there's a series that's under development. It's been announced, it's been cast. I don't think they've started shooting it yet, but it's supposed to take place in the High Republic. Acolyte, I think it's called. Take place at the end of the High Republic, and it's supposed to focus on the Night Sisters. So, of course, let's talk about the big blue elephant in the room. Thrawn is back, and looking a little worse for wear. They've been stranded on their own out there for like 9 years, 10 years maybe, and it shows. Thrawn, who is very meticulous in everything he does, his uniform is wearing. You can see his collar is fraying. There's spots on his tunic. Looks like they're where he would fasten it together, like where there might be snaps or something like that. And the fabric is wearing from frequent use, right? And he's not the only one who's looking a little worn. His stormtroopers, which apparently were labeled night troopers in some of the promotional material, definitely look like they've seen better days. A lot of them, their armor looks like it's been broken and repaired. Some of it even looks like, what's that Japanese art where you break, where you have some broken pottery and you fill in the gaps with like gold? Kitsugi, I think it is. Sort of like what we also saw from Kylo Ren when he repaired his helmet with whatever that red glue was. Similar thing on some of the stormtroopers. And a lot of them, I think all of them, also have red fabric tied around their armor in a lot of different places. Definitely looking like they're sort of barely holding it together in some ways. And they've become a little bit of a cult of Thrawn. They were chanting his name when he came out. Which is, definitely a little creepy. And Thrawn's Star Destroyer, the Chimera, is looking just as patched together as his troops. What's fun is you look at some of the damage on the Star Destroyer, and it looks like these are the places where the Purgles wrapped their tentacles around it when they jetted off to this galaxy. It's like, okay, yeah, this is a good callback to Rebels when he was sent out there. But yeah, the Star Destroyer has definitely seen better days. And Thrawn himself doesn't look menacing. Lars Mikkelsen does a great job portraying him. It's nothing about him or his portrayal. He walks up, he looks like a very sophisticated, oh yes, here is a person. But until he says something, and once he starts talking, you realize you don't want to mess with this dude. And like I think he's always has, he is using everyone and everything around him for his own purposes. He talks about once again using the Night Sisters' dark magic. Like he's been not afraid to use it before. Now we're apparently using it to call Morgan Elsbeth to come get Thrawn. Okay, that's fair. But he uses Sabine. He uses Skoll and Hoti, and is not afraid to throw them away as being useless to his cause. All right, so let's talk Sabine for a minute. Sabine came with Skoll and Hoti, I think is how they actually pronounce it in the show. She comes with them. She's looking to find Ezra, and is pretty single-minded about it. She gets taken before Thrawn, and he's like, oh, nice to see a familiar face, and he goes off on a couple of different things. She says, just tell me where Ezra is. And he starts rambling again. Says, can we just answer the question? Yeah, she's had enough of Thrawn's nonsense, right? So, and he happily sends her on her way. Now, it's fun. She gets her armor back. She gets all of her weapons back, including Ezra's lightsaber. She's given a mount, which they call it a howler in the show. She's basically riding a giant dog, and it's just cute as all heck. That dog was cool. But he sends her off to find Ezra. Says, I'm aware of your deal with Skoll. I fully intend to honor it. And Sabine's like, just like that. You've helped me, I'll help you. Well, what he's doing is he's sending off Sabine to find Ezra. And this is something he hasn't been able to do. So Sabine goes off to find Ezra, and Thrawn sends Skoll and Hoti off to follow Sabine. And then they'll be able to call in some reinforcements to kill Ezra and Sabine. Right? It's definitely one of those, I will give you what you want because you are going to give me exactly what I want. Right? If it didn't suit Thrawn's purposes for Sabine to go find Ezra, she wouldn't be going to find Ezra. But you sort of get the feeling that Thrawn does not want Ezra around at all, for any reason, at any time, for anything. And it's not surprising given that it was Ezra that stranded them there. So, Sabine goes off. She runs into trouble, of course. She's warned by Thrawn's commander of his troops, is Captain Enoch, who is a little weird. He's a stormtrooper, but the face of his helmet was replaced by another face. And I didn't look at it closely enough to see, did he replace it with a version of Thrawn's face, or did he just have a carving of somebody else's face? I don't know. But Sabine runs into some bandits, and it was really nice to see her looking competent as a fighter. The last couple of episodes, she's been sort of had her head handed to her in some ways, because she's been going up against Jedi or dark Jedi Force users with a lightsaber, which is not her forte. But when she ends up fighting this group of 6 or 7 bandits, oh yeah, she rocks them. Yeah, she is a Mandalorian through and through, and yes, the Beskar is definitely helpful. And it makes such a great sound when the blasters hit it. But yeah, so that was good. And yes, she does need to resort to her lightsaber and wreck shop, because turns out these guys, they're not Jedi. They're not Sith. They're not anything. And she just cuts her way through them. So, so it's nice to see her looking competent again as a fighter. It's amazing when you fight people more on your level or below your level, right? She somehow got dropped into the wrong level with the matchmaking system here, and it was just great. Anyway, she's off, and she eventually she does find Ezra. She's led to him. She finds these cute as heck little crab people. They're almost dressed like hobbits, that same sort of style. But you think of them like hermit crabs, where they're wearing the shell on their back, or these that look like rocks. So they collapse under the rocks, and they hide. They're very much hermit crab-like. And they recognize the Rebel logo that's on her pauldron. One of these little guys has looks like a wooden medallion carved with that same logo. And they take her to Ezra. Now, Thrawn's been looking for Ezra for 9 years. I kind of get the feeling this felt to me like it was a little easy, but whatever. Eventually, Ezra and Sabine touch base. They reconnect. And Ezra and Sabine are going to have a very long and very awkward conversation in the near future. Ezra's thrilled that she's there. For obvious reasons, he thinks she's there to rescue him. But he has all these questions. How did you get here? When are we leaving? Right? It's going to be great to get home. And Sabine's going to have to explain to him that, oh yeah, the sacrifice you made to trap Thrawn in this galaxy, I just undid that. We may not be able to go home because I came here on the Chimera and they're going to leave without us. Right? So, yeah, they're going to have a very awkward conversation in the future. Now, the reality is, Ahsoka's coming, and they will probably end up going back with Ahsoka. But that's going to be a conversation for a later time. But it was fun. The actor they've got playing Ezra pretty well nails Ezra from the Clone Wars. So that was fun. He definitely sounded like Ezra, and it was a good thing. Good times are had all around. And so there's going to be some fun stuff in the next episode. But there's one other thing I want to hit on, and that's Skoll and Hoti. They're here on their own mission. They've been helping Morgan Elsbeth because it's helping them. They wanted to get here. Skoll wanted to get here for a different reason. He's looking for something. He's looking for power, right? He's talking about the endless cycle of light and dark. He talks about the rise of the Jedi, the rise of the Empire, a cycle that is repeated over and over and over, and he wants to stop that cycle. Replace it with his own thing. I talked about last week that Skoll falls very much into what I consider to be Gray Jedi territory. Because Gray Jedi is such a stupid term. But he wants to use the dark side to destroy the light. Not like the Sith wants to. He wants to destroy it and remake it in his own image. Okay, this is why the concept of a Gray Jedi is so stupid, because the dark and the light cannot coexist in that way. They are fundamentally at odds with each other. Skoll is searching for something from old stories, it says, and he hears something calling to him. Hoti doesn't quite understand this. She's very much the impetuous hothead. She's been trained to want power and doesn't quite get what Skoll is trying to do. Which is fine, neither do we as the audience, so it's all good. But Skoll is real interesting. Hoti asks him at one point if he misses the Jedi Order. And he says, he says he misses the idea of the Order. He doesn't miss the Order itself with all of its flaws and all of its mistakes and all of that stuff, which it had many. That was the whole point of the Clone War, or the prequel trilogy, is to show the fall of Anakin and how even righteous organizations can be corrupted by their own, by themselves, right? How they can sort of stagnate and collapse. Skoll saw saw the Order, saw it collapse, and apparently he was a fairly young man when that happened. And and that it makes him different from most of the evil force wielders that we've seen in Star Wars. Now, there's some interesting timeline things I'm a little curious about. Thrawn refers to him as General Baylan Skoll, which means Skoll was a full Jedi when the Clone Wars was happening, because the Jedi were made generals over the Grand Army of the Republic. But Hoti is not that old, and he mentions at one point that when I was not much older than you are now, I watched everything I know burn. And that was the Jedi Temple. So, right, and that's Order 66 and all that fun stuff. Well, it's only been 25 years. He definitely aged a lot in 25 years. He doesn't look like he would be in his mid-40s, maybe, early 50s. But people age weirdly in Star Wars, so we'll go with it. So I'm really curious to see what the heck Skoll is looking for. This is there are a couple of fun mysteries. I'm going to say uninterested in what's happening with Thrawn. It's sort of inevitable that Thrawn is going to end up back in our galaxy. And obviously he's going to get stopped because the New Republic is still we'll call it thriving government when the First Order rises in the sequels. So what's going to happen? What's happening with Skoll? What is he looking for? And I don't know. But he's looking for something. He's looking for the beginning of something. Now, I had a thought, or a question perhaps. There's a movie being planned for an era that Star Wars has been, StarWars.com, I guess, has been referring to as the Dawn of the Jedi. And there's a movie planned in that era. And the director, and I forgot who it was now, liked playing in that period because he's not encumbered by anything. There's no storytelling. Like if you want to tell a story in the Galactic Civil War era, you're tied to everything that's got happened in the movies and the Clone Wars and Rebels and all of this canon, which happens in that time period. But telling stories in the High Republic or the Dawn of the Jedi era, and you've got a wide open field to play in. Well, Filoni just dumped a big pile of lore in the beginning. So, or is in the process of doing so. Which could be really, really interesting. So I'm looking forward to seeing what's going on. Filoni is the type of guy, he loves the prequels. And I could totally see him drop some midichlorians. I could see him drop the Wills. He could drop any fun deep cuts to Star Wars. But he is really setting the stage for something here. So that's going to be really fun to see and just what the heck is going on. The other thing I want to say is the show is beautiful, right? We're now 6 episodes into an 8-episode series, and everything you see throughout this show looks amazing. Filoni knows how to use all of the tools in the toolbox. Right? He knows how to effectively use the volume. He knows how and when to not use it. And he's because he came from animation, he's had this long history of visual storytelling that is translating so beautifully into live action. And the way he is showing just Thrawn and his company, right, tells a story. They don't have to call it out very much. At once, Elsbeth asks Thrawn why he's only sending 2 companies of stormtroopers, or 2 squads of stormtroopers to help. And he makes a comment, that their time in exile has dwindled their numbers. Okay, cool. But you look at those stormtroopers. You look at his Star Destroyer. You look at Thrawn himself. And they all tell a story without anybody having to say a word. You can see this is a group of people who have had it hard. And that are doing everything they can to keep going. And it's not been easy. It said that from stormtroopers with cracked breastplates and cracked helmets, and you see they're patched with some gold-colored material. The Chimera has vast sections of his hull, not the gray of the Imperial Star Destroyer, but these golden patches, and they're not placed like, oh yes, we had a shipyard and we were able to do it. We just happened to have gold plates instead of this gray. No, they were patched on as they could. It does not look like it was a pretty job. All of this tells a story that you don't get, or you don't need to have somebody tell you. Yes, we've had to patch together our Star Destroyer with whatever we could find. They don't have to. It doesn't have to tell you, yes, I had to patch together my stormtroopers with whatever I could find. No, just panning across that parade ground of stormtroopers, or night troopers, I guess they've called them. And it's pretty epic. It is so beautiful to see that, when they're talking about Filoni doing a feature film here in the near future, I am really looking forward to that. So, but until then, we have 2 more episodes of Ahsoka to go, and I think this is going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it. So, Let me know what you think. Drop something in the comments. Join the Discord. We can talk Ahsoka all day, man. I'm all down for that. And until next time, be excellent to each other. And this is Music Free Static signing off.